Let's welcome Ed Miliband, Labour Shadow Climate Change Secretary. Ed, good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Good to be with you.
Good to have you here, Ed. So you heard that then. Labour MPs who don't or won't support NATO and British membership, they face action being taken, as Keir Starmer made clear there. They've been warned. So do you support that idea, a firm hand with MPs on this?
Well, John, as I understand it, there was some Labour MPs who signed a letter, a Stop the War letter, and Keir Starmer made clear that he didn't feel that that letter was the right letter to be signing in any way, and they took their names off that letter. I think that, honestly, what I know we're focused on as a party is not looking inwards. We're focused on the British people, and what the British people are asking me about in Doncaster, where I am in my constituency, is the cost of living crisis. We're talking to them about our plans for a windfall tax. Keir Starmer's been talking about that today, so that's where our focus is.
And I get that. That's an important issue, and I guess that's what you want to discuss, and we will discuss it. But
hopefully.
I mean, but your own chief whip, he considered that this matter was important. We would not have warned those 11 MPs, take your name off that letter criticising NATO, or you're going to lose the whip. So he thought it was important enough to make that sort of threat.
And they did, John.
They did, all bar, of course, Jeremy Corbyn, who's been kicked out of the parliamentary party. Now, some, we hear reliably from the Times newspaper, some around Keir Starmer, they want MPs who break that line, who do not show full support for Labour, kicked out of the party. Some say it doesn't need too much provocation for that to happen. Do you agree with that? Is it right to take on that wing of the party?
They haven't talked to me about that, John. Look, these are obviously decisions for Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
But my role in the Labour Party and on the front bench is to talk about the energy price crisis that people are facing, the climate crisis, and the fact that the solutions to this crisis are actually the same. Because if we have a green energy sprint, if we put a windfall tax on the big oil and gas companies, we can both deliver fairness for people and we can deliver lower bills, and we can tackle the climate crisis. So, as I say, that's what what my day job is.
Yeah, it is but also it's your day job to be a member of the shadow cabinet. You therefore carry collective responsibility for decisions of the party leader taken by the leadership as a whole. So I'm taking it you fully agree with this hard line on left-wing MPs who don't like NATO, because it makes the point. Makes the point.
You're a veteran, John, and I am too. You know, we've been both at this a long time. Some kind of what somebody said to somebody else in the Times newspaper reported today. Honestly, I don't have anything more to say about that, really. Those MPs took their names off the letter. And as I say, I think our party's focus, and genuinely, John, I think this is important, is on how we can change the country.
Yes.
How we can make because so many people.
Well, it's your job to think about these things. It's your job.
Yes, it is,
but I'm beginning to get the impression. I mean, one way or another, Ed, you're giving me the impression.
That's my leadership trails behind.
You have indeed.
Behind, John.
You have indeed. But you're somehow giving me the impression, maybe wrongly, I'm getting the impression you're not quite as big an enthusiast as some around Keir Starmer for this tough line.
Come on, what's your next question? You must have some other questions.
Okay, I think I get the message, but I'm going to ask you about this because it is important. Your windfall tax, you're sticking to that. The Prime Minister pretty much kicked that out of court. He's not interested in that. There was some suggestion the Chancellor may be more interested in it, but the Prime Minister is not. And then we hear BP say that with or without a windfall tax, they're going to carry on investing, which I guess encourages you.
Well, hang on a minute. What we've got is a situation where BP have announced their biggest profits for more than a decade. We have people across our country struggling with an energy bills crisis, and the two are connected because the money from consumers is going to the oil and gas companies for their bumper profits. And we face a massive divide in our politics today. We've got a Labour Party that says we should take action by having a windfall tax on those big oil and gas giants and help families, and a Conservative government that is refusing to act. And it is total nonsense to say that this money is going into investment, this windfall. Don't take my word for it, John. Look at BP's annual report, which says that where the money is going, 60% of it into share buybacks, that's buying back shares from shareholders, boosting the share price, and 40% of it into BP's debt, into paying off BP's debt. And when Bernard Looney, the chief executive of BP, was asked today, if there was a windfall tax, would it make any difference to your investment plans? The answer was no.
Yes,
The government has, yes,
indeed,
yes, exactly.
indeed,
The
as I
government
pointed
has
out a moment ago. And so you're sticking to your windfall tax plan. It's absolutely, you're being consistent on that. And would it be fair
Not
to,
only are we,
would it be
not only are we
fair, Ed, to
sticking
move
to it.
on from that and say, also, as part of the same set of policies, the Labour idea, very firmly set out at the last election of nationalising the big six energy companies, that's now being put aside. That's now being put in the bin.
That's not our priority, no. Look, that's not our priority. What we've said, John, is that in the circumstances we're in, what is the biggest priority? The biggest priority is to take action on the cost of living crisis, number one. Number two is to have a 10-year plan for home energy insulation.
Yeah.
Why? Because we have the worst insulated homes in Europe. This could cut bills by hundreds of pounds for families. We could insulate 2 million homes this year. And then to have a clean energy sprint, onshore wind, solar, as well as energy efficiency, as well as nuclear as part of the mix, although nuclear takes longer, in order to have energy security, tackle the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis. Now, on the question of ownership, in a way, people boil this down to something very simplistic about the supply companies. There's different parts of the energy system. There's supply, there's generation, there's transmission and distribution. What we're going to do, because the energy market isn't working well, is take a step back and look at all of those, and then we'll identify what the right way forward is in terms of regulation, whether there's a role for common ownership and so on. So that's the right thing to do. But at the moment, John, the priority is the cost of living crisis that families are facing.
All right, just the last one because time runs out. And again, thanks for joining us, Ed. I was interested, so many people were, to see Tony Blair featuring in Labour campaigning for the local elections.
It's a good video
this week. It was a good video, you say.
You agree it was a good video?
No, I said you said it was a good video. Tony Blair, haven't seen him for a while in your election material. Just tell me one thing, Ed. What can today's Labour learn from Tony Blair?
I think you can learn a number of things. I think you can learn that credibility matters, and so does an agenda to transform the country. I think you can learn that the world changes. Tony Blair once said, we must learn from our history but not live in it. And so the world is very different now, as I'm sure he would acknowledge. And so you learn from what we did well and what we didn't do so well. But I completely agree with showing what a Labour government can achieve.
Right, okay. That was a carefully worded, very, very Ed Miliband-like answer. Good to have you on the show as well.
What does that mean, John?
I enjoyed your company is what that means. Ed Miliband, Labour's Shadow Climate Change Secretary. Thank you. Now, let's talk a bit about football.